Hello, and welcome to another episode of Nerd Nonsense. I am your host, Nero, and this is my co-host.
Oh, it's it's Makoto.
That was a choice for one. Or did you just get or were you just surprised?
I'm trying to think of something new.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Um, so for today, we're kind of spitballing it here. So if it's a little disconjoined, folks, it's part of the nonsense. Don't worry about it.
I
It's fine.
for for uh for context, I got nothing this week.
All
I
right,
got nothing.
I'm
I
about
got
to
no tasks to research. I got nothing.
I'm about to pull something. All right, I'll pull. Well, first, let me do the easy thing. I have been playing Persona 5 Tactica.
Okay. Yeah.
So I started playing that on Friday when it came out. Uh, have you played Persona 5 or any of the Persona games,
I haven't
actually?
played any Personas or Shin Megami Tensei, whatever.
All right.
I don't know any. I know of them,
Okay.
obviously, but I haven't played any of them. No.
So yeah, Tactica is a spin-off of Persona 5, as
Uh
there are
huh.
many spin-offs.
Yeah.
It's set, I think, it's set like in the middle of the end game of the Persona 5 Royale. And it's just like a
Okay.
little side story that's happening.
Yeah.
I assume with how a lot of these side stories work that happen during the game and stuff, they're gonna lose their memories by the end. Cause what, of course, right? Happened with
Mhm.
the last two. But it's really fun so far. It's a strategy game. Plays a little like XCOM, but it's more puzzly than XCOM,
Mm.
right? Like a lot of the quests I've had to do for this game so far have been like actual like puzzles, like hard puzzles. Like you have to like
Mhm.
kill all the enemies in one turn to finish this quest, and you have to like strategically figure out how to move and do things and like put enemies in the right way, use which attacks to correctly do that.
Mhm.
I was doing one yesterday that I think it took me like almost an hour and a half to finish because I could not figure out what the hell I was missing, and like one enemy just kept surviving by the end. I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong? But it's really fun. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Okay.
Getting to see these characters again, getting interactions with them again. The story is interesting so far. I mean, it's not like crazy interesting. Again, it's just a little side story going on. There's a little mystery going on, but it's got a cute art style. It's chibi,
Uh-huh.
and the aesthetic is nice. Like the Persona 5 has a great aesthetic. For the areas in this game, they always, I guess, for the main game, they were like based off of different places because Persona 5 is about like Phantom Thieves, and so the base game you would get like different areas based on different places that thieves would steal from, right? Like a museum or a casino, heist areas. Here
Okay.
it's kind of vibey similar. I'm getting the first place was a wedding, so I guess he's like, oh, you steal the bride kind of thing.
Mhm.
Next, now I just entered in the second area, which is like it looks like feudal Japan style. I don't know what. I don't know yet how, like, maybe when I get into the buildings itself, I'll get a better picture of that. But maybe, I guess stealing from a feudal lord, I guess is what they're going with. So
Okay. I'm sorry I'm not adding a whole lot. It's
no,
just
I know.
I really haven't played like a lick of Persona at
No,
all.
yeah,
I
I know.
know there's an anime I hear it was between good, okay, and good. So
The Persona 4 anime is good. I haven't seen the Persona 5 anime. I hear mixed things in general.
yeah.
It just like it lacks a lot of the style of the game.
Uh-huh.
Where 4 was actually a pretty good interpretation of the game. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
That's
It's been a
good.
good ride.
Have you gotten to touch the other two games that came out the same day? Or
No, I've not started. I have not gotten to play Mario RPG yet, or Naruto, Boruto, Storm Connections. I heard though that game was a hot mess.
is it?
Negative, like I think it's all overwhelmingly negative reviews on Steam.
Oh no.
There's no peer-to-peer multiplayer, so you can
Oh.
only do like randomized online matches,
Oh.
which is like not
That's
good.
strange.
Yeah, apparently adding it in at an undetermined later date. But like, if you can't fight your friends, what's half the point?
Yeah, like I'm not here to get like high tier. Like it's not one of those games I'd consider to be like a competitive multiplayer game.
Yeah, like the whole point of this game is right is to it's to like consolidate all the Storm stuff into one game, and I
Yeah.
guess it didn't. It did that, but I guess not well enough for it to just warrant on its
So
own.
like besides like the player to player multiplayer, like I mean, have you heard like is that the only bad thing about it or?
People just being like, there's not enough new content to warrant a whole new price tag as opposed to just being DLC for Storm
Mm,
4. I guess like I think there's only like four or five new characters
uh-huh.
plus the new story mode
Mm,
where it plays nearly identical to Storm 4 for all the existing characters. Like no new. I don't think it doesn't sound like there's updated move sets or anything like that.
mm.
So it's kind of like
That's funny.
another side step. It's probably
That's
one now that
funny.
I'll get like later down the line on sale, kind of thing.
Well, we're about to have a sale, but I
We
don't
are
I don't
tomorrow.
it's not gonna get it's not gonna I don't think it's gonna get anything major.
No, and I probably like if I play fighting games on PlayStation. I wouldn't play it on PC anyway because
And to be honest, like looking at it, it doesn't really cover anything from normal Naruto, does it?
I think it's supposed. I think it's supposed to cover the base Naruto and Shippuden stories, but like truncated.
Oh, I do see a screenshot of Naruto versus Gaara. So,
Yeah, but it's like truncated.
um
It's more. It's definitely more Shippuden leading though.
mhm. Yeah, it's just kind of like for that price, you might as well just get the other 3 Shippuden Storm games.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, one of those like falls flat.
Mhm.
I am hearing RPG is phenomenal though, as is
Yeah,
as
I've been hearing
expected.
good things about it.
So I do want to get to play it sooner or later. I just,
Mhm.
I was like, well, if I'm gonna get one game, might as well get the one that's free right now for me to play the
Uh-huh.
one that's free. Um,
Yeah.
gonna eventually get the Persona 5 Tactica DLC, which is like a whole. It's another $20. I think on Game Pass it's 17 though if you have Game Pass.
Mhm.
What I'm hearing though, it's Splatoon light.
Hmm.
Like the goal of a lot of the maps are to paint the area.
I got you.
So it's like,
Okay.
it's another like the DLC is like it's story based. It's 4 hours from what I'm hearing, 4 to 5 hours, and it
Mhm.
is earlier in the it's an earlier side story in Persona 5 timeline. So earlier in the game, it's like featuring some fan favorite characters that weren't for story reasons aren't around when this game takes place. So
Okay.
it's looks like it's good. I want to try that DLC. I heard good things about it. It's just an annoying additional $20 to $17 for people who are paying for the game, right?
Mhm.
On top of which kind of sucks. But and especially for day one, day one DLC is always like a weird.
It is a strange concept. Honestly, it's like yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. I've always been a little wary of like DLC in general.
yeah.
I still don't have I know it's good, but I still haven't gotten the Cyberpunk DLC.
You got a bunch of game
And
to play still with that, like
mhm. I
so.
do. I really haven't even gotten that much further. Unfortunately, I picked up some extra hours at work and then also I was I was test playing Cursed Halo a bit.
Ye-
I beat the first level because there's really not a whole lot to that first level. It's more to
Yeah,
the second level where it really starts to show a lot of the cool things they add. But yeah, I was enjoying that for a bit and I had to tell myself to stop. So
I'm excited for when
um
we play that.
yeah. And I've also been like looking at other mods I could potentially add because some of them are pretty cool. Like some of them expand on like do you know the Halo 3 map High Ground?
Yeah.
There's a mod that makes it bigger, and I was all like, "Oh, I wonder how they did that."
Ooh.
I'm surprised that people have, like, been able to make bigger maps and stuff for this, but, like, wow. Like, Halo 3, like, I can imagine Halo 1 being a little easier, but yeah, it's wild. Um,
I love fan modding
so
communities.
there was one for, adding, like, Forge to Halo 3 ODST for the campaign, missions. So I was like, "That's interesting." But,
Gotcha.
uh, yeah,
Hmm. I'm looking forward
there's
to
some
it.
there's all kinds of cool ideas we can do with Halo. We could also do like lasso runs maybe, but I don't know. I've never been that good.
I mean,
And
yeah,
then,
me
you
neither.
know, still playing a lot of League and stuff. So the the new TFT set will officially release soon. So that's really cool. So yeah, I really haven't been doing much or watching a whole lot,
Gotcha.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess before that, I get into what I've been doing for a while. That I've been kind of keeping, not talking about saving for a pocket like this. Uh, I am excited also for tomorrow. Owlcat is releasing their DLC 5 for Wrath of the Righteous, which I feel like
What's that?
I'm not sure if you've known because I don't know if you've seen those streams. I did stream it a lot last year. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is a CRPG.
Oh, this was the game I was thinking of. Because you were recommending some sort of D&D game to Luna at one point. And I
Yes.
and then when Baldur's Gate came out, I'm like, was he talking about Baldur's Gate? I can't remember. And so
No.
this is what you were talking about.
Yeah. So this is actually like this was my game of the year when it came out in 2021. I think right.
Uh-huh.
That sounds right. I got an enhanced edition last year. Owlcat is, in my opinion, one of the best CRPG developers nowadays. Larian
Uh-huh.
has now joined that group with Baldur's Gate 3, but Owlcat did it with Wrath of the Righteous and Kingmaker. I think Wrath of the Righteous is way better than Kingmaker. Kingmaker is awesome too, though. It is so it's using the Pathfinder rule set, which is if you don't know, it's a branched off of D&D 3.5.
Yeah, no, I almost played a Pathfinder at one point, but we never started that one.
Yeah, it's much more technical,
Mhm.
and there's like classes upon classes upon classes.
Yeah.
So like if you're a min maxer, it's heaven. It is a min maxer's heaven. There's so many different builds you can do. It's a numbers man. It's a numbers man's game. Uh, but the Wrath of the Righteous in particular, the story module they're doing is like it's like an epic level adventure where you get to the power level of gods
I'm
and like
I'm looking at the reviews right now, and the top 2 are killing me.
what did it
Uh,
say?
1009 hours, still haven't beaten, just figured I should leave a nice review at this point.
That's about
Uh,
me. That's me.
and then this guy said, "Please release me from this game," and he has 1278 hours.
I mean, I say this right. I one of my favorite game in 2021. I have I think like 600, 700 hours in that game, and I still haven't beaten it. I just keep rolling
God,
new
I hate this
characters.
game so much, would recommend.
That's the honestly, that's the truth. That's like when I hear people doing the same thing with Baldur's Gate 3, I'm like, oh yeah, I still haven't beaten the game. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me with Pathfinder. Because
Mhm.
again, it's about the same. Like, it's probably like 90 to 100 hours to beat, but I just keep making new characters because it's so fun.
Yeah.
Uh, and the way that Pathfinder's like system works is so you have your classes, right?
Uh-huh.
I want to say there's like 20 to 30 base classes, and then each class is 5 subclasses. So there's a lot of builds
Yeah.
potential, and then you get a mythic path on top of that, right? So the main storyline involves you becoming mythic, which is transforming
Mm.
into some sort of like divine or mythical being. And there's different mythic paths, and they are tied to the alignment system.
Mhm.
And so, like, right, if you go down the angel mythic path, you get angelic powers, right? You turn more into an angel. You go to the demon mythic path, you become more demonic. You get you get demon powers. You can take on aspects of demons. It's almost like a second class you get.
Yeah.
Uh, the lich mythic path, you become a lich, undead, and the story changes right after Act One. The story drastically changes, or I guess Act Two. Starts to drastically change depending on what mythic path you chose,
Mm.
right? Because then as you're becoming this thing, you're changing, and the world's changing around you, and how different entities interact with you, right? Like an
Yeah.
angel is not going to interact the same way with either with someone who's becoming an angel or becoming a demon, right?
Mhm.
And so it's this the whole base game, like the whole set premise is there's a demonic invasion, and you're part of the Fifth Crusade to stop it. And then
Is there is there also just a path to, like, not become angelic or demonic?
yeah, so again, like I said, there's six main paths. There's six main paths. There's angel, demon, lich, trickster, which is kind of like Fey like. Um, oh gosh, what are the other two? What are the two main ones? Demon, angel, lich, trickster, Aeon, which is like a divine judge, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the sixth one. Oh, Azada, which is like space cosmic hippies.
Okay.
And then there's a point in, I think, like I want to say Act 4 or 5, Act 4, where you can reject all the other paths. You can just become normal human again.
Okay.
And to, I guess, the way it's called the legend path, and the way you kind of like keep up with those other mythic paths is that you get an extra 20 levels.
Hmm.
So you can get a level 40 character. So that's how they kind of balance it. And so you can like
Hmm.
quadruple class if you really wanted.
Okay.
So there's a lot. Legend has tons of build potential.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know if I'm ready to dive into another Baldur's Gate.
yeah. So this is one I always go back to all the time. And I did a lot of streams last year on it. They have a roguelike mode. I did a lot. I did. That's when I did my when I actually got what's it called? Affiliate. That was a stream I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was turning you guys into different VTubers into characters in the roguelike mode.
Mhm.
I made
Mhm.
you a dragon monk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Luna was a Dampier. Yeah. So I was doing that. Anyway, the new DLC comes out tomorrow, which is like so they have one DLC that's kind of like a side story, and now this is the continuation to that. So it's the next 5 levels, or I guess next 5 levels. So it's level 10 now because it's like a smaller
Oh.
scale adventure. So like they had
Okay.
DLC 2, I think, was it DLC 2 or 3? Was a side adventure that was like a low level 5 adventure that's like happening in the background. You're just like a random dude who's just trying to survive in the demonic invasion. And now this is the sequel to that. It's the next 5 levels.
Oh.
So it's a nice little side adventure. And with it, though, the big thing I'm excited about is they're adding 12 new subclasses.
Oh God.
They're adding more, and these subclasses are wild too. So, right off the top of my head, I believe there's a Ghost Rider subclass where you get a spectral horse. It's a
Uh-huh.
subclass of the Cavalier. There is a flesh-eating barbarian. So, like, depending on what you eat, what the flesh of the enemies you get different buffs. There is a ice druid, which I think is super cool. There is a oh, what's it called? Uh, hag, hag riven. So you can like summon. There's like I think there's 2 hag subclasses actually. There's one for blood ragers, which you can get hag claws. And another one where you can just summon a hag, which is
Huh.
just keep it Auntie Ethel with you.
Yeah.
uh, there's also was it an alchemist subclass that's necromancy based.
Oh.
So you can make like instead of like using magic to create zombies, you use potions, and you can give them different effects based on the potions you use to turn them in.
That's pretty cool. That's a unique concept. Yeah.
And then this is my favorite thing. One of the devs loved the Geomancer from Final Fantasy so much that he homebrewed a whole Geomancer class, and they just put it in the game.
Okay.
So like, right, there's no Geomancer subclass in base Pathfinder in any of the Pathfinder expansions. This dev was like, I really want to put a Geomancer. You know what? Do you know what Geomancer is from Final Fantasy?
Not really, no.
So it's like a Earth Mage.
Okay.
So they're
Okay.
like they
That's
can
what I thought it was, but
yeah they
just wanted
change
to make sure.
they get effects based on the terrain they're on. They can use magic based
Uh-huh.
on terrain, and so they homebrewed a terrain based class with a sorcerer class.
Oh.
So just a lot of really cool subclasses in this upcoming thing. There's a shaman for
Sounds
the
like it.
locusts, a shaman for the shaman that's packed with the horseman of pestilence subclass. So you can like summon hordes of locusts and like rot things.
Uh-huh.
It's just there's just lots of new cool combos, and I'm super digging. Uh, it looks like it's gonna be a really fun time. I'm super excited.
Do you think they're gonna add more to Baldur's Gate?
I hope so. I would imagine they kept stressing at launch whenever they talked about classes and races. So that just
That's
makes me
true.
think that they're gonna add stuff eventually. I wouldn't expect it until next year though.
Yeah.
Like I want to say like we wouldn't probably hear anything until spring next year.
I love reading the patch notes for Baldur's Gate.
They're fun patch notes. They have fun with them.
Yeah, like I was really loving there's one specific that I laughed at, which was Cazador suddenly remembered he can turn into mist and fly, so he'll no longer give up
Yes,
the ghost if he falls into a chasm.
I love that one. they're so tongue in cheek. I love Larian Studios.
Mhm.
They like to have fun, you know.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. I do want to get back to playing Baldur's Gate 3 at some point and doing another run. Finally finishing my Dirge run.
Yeah, maybe I uninstalled it recently to make room for Halo because I was like, I haven't played it in like a month. So I was like, and it's taking up 120 gigs on my solid state drive.
Yeah, it's
So
100. It is 120 gigs. Uh, Between that
I
and
just hope,
Pathfinder, I have like that's like 300 gigs right there.
yeah, I
Just
just hope that me uninstalling it didn't ruin the mods that I have. It
yeah,
shouldn't, but I hope it. But I just hope it doesn't, and then I hope it doesn't create issues later.
yeah. Um, Also note for CRPG bands because we're just eating good this year, right? And I was telling another friend of this, another friend of mine this. So we had Baldur's Gate 3, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous fans get this new beefy DLC, and Owlcat deciding to be yeah, we're not just gonna do DLC this year. We're gonna release a whole nother game. They're releasing it
Oh.
the first week of December. Warhammer Rogue Trader, which is another like 80-hour CRPG.
Yeah. Warhammer is one of those things that I keep thinking about starting,
It's a
but I
commitment.
never. Yeah, like it's just another expensive tabletop hobby.
So the way I've consumed Warhammer actually is I've been I have my one friend who's really into Warhammer 40k, and
Hmm.
I just let him info dump to me, and I've like absorbed so much lore from that.
Yeah,
Like I know things even though never having played any Warhammer thing or reading any Warhammer book, I know things now because he's just explained it to me, and he's like showed me some lore videos and stuff. I do want to get into. I don't know if I'll ever get into the tabletop because it's just too expensive of a hobby.
yeah.
But I
I
definitely
might
want
want to
to.
try to. I might want to try the games first.
Yeah, I definitely want to play the games. I think the Rogue Trader is gonna be my intro to it
Uh huh.
because right, I love CRPGs. I love Owlcat, and it looks like it'll be a fun, good entry point, interesting entry
Yeah.
point. I have a few of the other games like on Steam that have gone on sale. Right, like I have the RTS and Space Marine. I do want to play, but I just haven't yet. I think Rogue Trader might be my like first kick in entry to way because Outcast is such a good developer. So very excited for that. I know my friend who's in 40k is like so jazzed for this. He's like expecting that to be one of his games of the year.
Uh huh.
Which, yeah, right. If you're into Warhammer and you're making a CRPG for it, like hell yeah, right?
I'm looking at the ultimate starter set.
For Warhammer,
Yeah, it's $210.
Jesus Christ, it's such an expensive hobby.
It's the ultimate one though. Like there is like get started with Warhammer 40K, Warhammer 40K introductory set, Warhammer 40K starter set, and then Warhammer 40K ultimate starter set.
I just don't know if I would have the time to paint those. You know?
Yeah. That one comes with 44 miniatures, 72-page rule book, dice, rulers, gaming board, and then also terrain.
Okay. Yeah. Like I think like oh I should get into it, and then I'm like oh yeah I have like 7 gunpla I still haven't finished making.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like I'm really bad. Like I'll get into a mood to craft things, but then
Mhm.
like if I'm not in that mood, they're just gonna sit there. Ugh. It's such a cool universe though. I love my
My
what do you say?
I was about to like bring up another topic, but
Oh,
so
I
no, go
was
ahead and say what you're gonna say.
oh no I was just gonna say that I love how my friend describes it. He's like yeah it's just post good. Good is
Mhm.
gone. It's just post good.
Yeah. My brother, he's always been into Hero Forge and making miniatures on there. And
Ooh
he's been showing me recently that like you now can like basically you because they added the ability to make two players on one piece.
yeah.
So people have been using that to basically hack the system to create unique things by basically making the two characters the exact same but with like minor differences to where like you can create whole new hairstyles now by merging two.
Oh.
So that's what he's been showing me, and it's been pretty cool to see. Also, like to dual wield things that you normally couldn't dual wield before, different things like that.
I have like I've peeked around at Hero Forge before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely interesting. But I think the last time I peeked at it was like a year or two ago, so it's probably much more updated now. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he made me a Makoto mini
Ooh,
like for Christmas. Unfortunately, the quarterstaff broke off, but
oh,
it still looks cool and I like it. So
I do wish something like Hero Forge existed back like maybe it didn't. That was just stupid. But back like 6 or 7 years ago, when I was actively trying to make a board game,
I think it did. I
it
think it
probably
did
did. I was
exist
probably
back
just
then.
stupid. It didn't like notice it.
Well, it probably didn't have as much have as much on it as it does now.
Yeah. What is actually what's the date on Hero Forge? Do a quick Wikipedia search because I am curious. It doesn't tell me. No, it doesn't tell me. I'll have to look at it later. But yeah. So I guess swinging topics now. The thing I've been holding in my back pocket for. I have for the past 2 months basically been getting back into Fate, the Fate franchise.
Right.
Do you know? I guess before. Do you know what Fate is? The Fate franchise, etc. At
Okay,
all?
so here's what I know.
Okay. Okay. Lay it
It's
on me.
made by it's made by UFO Table.
Okay. The anime
Otherwise
is. Yep.
otherwise known as Ufotable.
Hmm.
But they're pronounced UFO Table. Um it is a convoluted story that really like does not have does not have a true beginning.
Okay.
Like obviously there's a prequel series and stuff, but no matter what you watch, one of them will kind of like
They'll
they
spoil
all
each other.
give information of one of the other series, right? From what I understand. Like Fate Zero will tell you things about Fate Stay Night. Fate Stay Night will tell you things about Fate Grand
Yep.
Order. Fate Grand Order will tell you things about Fate Zero. So it's like there's really like no true beginning to it. You can start wherever,
Okay.
which makes it accessible.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is, I'm already trying to follow along with Kingdom Hearts, and and Fate is not one of those things that I'm ready to start. I watched a video of someone explaining the idea of Arthur in a nutshell,
Okay. So,
and they didn't even get to everything. They said, "Oh, I'm just talking about the anime stuff."
all right. So, I guess so. For preface and for viewer preface, if you are aware of Fate, I'm a Type Moon boomer. Type Moon is the company that makes Fate, like the actual Fate franchise that owns the IP.
Which is a visual novel series,
Yes.
or
Yes. So
in okay,
let me let me take you back, Makoto. Let me take you back to little Nero, circa 2009, when he discovers a little anime called Fate Stay Night, produced by Studio Dean. Old
people
anime.
die when they are killed.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, that
And
was the
that's
OG Fate Stay Night. I know
yes.
that one.
So that was an adaptation of the 2004 visual novel, the same name. So it's a visual novel. That's why there's multiple routes and like you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I saw that and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. No, nowadays like it's considered a horrible adaptation.
Yeah.
But little Nero Brain was like, epic hero is fighting for the Holy Grail. This Emiya guy with his ideals of justice. I'm in. Give me more. And then I find out there's a visual novel, and I read the visual novel, and then I find out there's an expanded universe, all by this crazy person Nasu Kinoko, who's made this
Mm-hmm.
convoluted multiverse. And then I read Tsukihime, which is their other work, and Kagetsu Otoya, which is their other work, and Angel Notes, and all these things. And I'm like super in, right?
Uh-huh.
Then, then I think, what, circa 2011, they make a Fate Stay Night Element Blade Works movie. Which, again, by Studio Dean. Not very good in reflecting on it. But Little Nero Brain was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I've seen the visual novel scenes from my favorite route adapted.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It goes on. More and more side project comes out. Fate Extra PSP game comes out. Uh, it all keeps coming.
Yes.
And then Fate Grand Order happens eventually, which is I think where things kind of blew up big.
Which I want to point out, Fate Zero was when I started to hear about it.
Yeah, so Fate Zero was the first. Rephrase that. Fate Zero was the first big blow up point because UFO
Yeah,
table made it, and it was gorgeous. And it was an adaptation of a prequel light novel, not written by Nasu. It was written by one of Nasu's friends, Geru Debuchy.
I should also point out for people who are unfamiliar with UFO Table, they're also the people who made Demon Slayer,
Yes. So
and Guilty Crown.
no, did they do Guilty Crown?
I believe so.
I'll check that later.
Which makes sense if so. Yeah,
I'll put a thing up on the editing thing if they made Guilty Crown or not. I'll double check. I feel like it's not right, but I could be
yeah.
completely wrong. I know they definitely also made the Tales of Arise, not Tales of Arise, Tales of the Vesperia anime as well. I remember that. But anyway, UFO Table makes really pretty things. So Fate Zero blew up, and Udabuchi, right? Udabuchi, I think was still right. It was still with the. I don't know if it was right before or right after. It was around the same time where there was like 3 big Udabuchi works at once. There's Fate Zero, Madoka, and Psychopass. All coming around the same time, so Udabuchi was hot.
It is not made by UFO Table.
Is not.
I apologize.
It's okay.
Production IG.
That's what I thought. Okay. Because it doesn't have their, like, UFO Table has this in-house digital art division, and that's why everything looks so effing good. They don't, like, what's it called? They don't do a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Freelance. As much. They can coordinate stuff better,
Uh-huh.
and they have this digital animation team that's really good. That's why it always looks so freaking amazing. Anyway, so yeah, so Zero's when it blew up, and then Fake Grand Order is kind of when I think it went critical meltdown of like popularity because it's a gotcha game.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at. Sorry, I'm looking at UFO Table still. I'm looking at
Good.
their resume pretty much. I haven't heard of a single show they did before Fate Zero.
Yeah, Fate Zero's will put them on the map.
Yeah, and then it just became like Fate. They did Tales of God Eater, then Demon
Yep,
Slayer.
yep, that
There's
sounds
an
about right.
untitled Genshin Impact series as well.
They will be doing, yeah, they'll be updating Genshin after Demon Slayer's done, I think.
That's cool. Anyway, sorry about that.
No, you're good. Fake Grand Order gotcha game, big thing, makes lots of money.
Yes,
I was
I've heard about it. Yes.
actually me and my friend were looking at like the most profitable franchises the other day, and it's in that list. Just from the
Okay.
mobile game, it's made $7 billion. It's a ridiculous amount of money for a gotcha game, especially where like it makes obscene amount of money. It works though because you have all these different characters from different mythologies and such, so it attracts everyone. Like everyone sees, right? When I did a bunch of, I just started adding a bunch of Indian servants. My one friend
Mhm.
who's from India, he's like, "Yo, wait, hold up, there's my boy Arjuna. Hello." And so it's like you get people in that way, right? And it also
Uh-huh.
has great waifus as well. They're very well designed. So people roll, people spend money. So I've been getting back into anyway. So where I've always loved Fate. It's like been a huge part of me. My it's probably my favorite multimedia franchise above
Yeah.
everything else. I love the way that world is crafted. I'm a huge sucker for mythology, and so
It's also very similar to Kingdom Hearts in that there's multiple forms of media of which it is being released.
yes, it
Not
is.
forms of media, but multiple areas to see it, I guess.
Yes, it is multimedia. All right,
Mhm.
there's games, there is anime, there is books, there is manga. There's lots of avenues, which has also made it very hard to keep up with sometimes, especially
Yep.
because they don't like releasing a lot of the stuff in English. We have to wait for fan translations.
Mhm.
So I was pretty much all caught up with everything Type Moon up till like year 2 of Fate Grand Order Japan. Right, I was following along with the translations. Year 2 of Japan is when North America came out, and I started playing it, and then I'm like, oh wait, I just hate gotcha games. Or not
Mhm.
just gotcha. I hate mobile games. Let me just put it that way. I don't like phone games. I hate playing on my phone.
Yeah. I'm with you there. My phone is there for puzzle games, like
Yeah.
crossword puzzles, and I was just playing Sudoku earlier.
So like I can't sit there and play a game on a phone. It's something that does not compute in my head. And as much as Fate Grand Order has a great story, it says a phenomenal story. It does not have great gameplay. It's not the most
Uh-huh.
riveting. It is my least favorite part of Fate Grand Order. So I kind of fell off. Um, and so I had a whole conversation with a friend a couple months back. We were late night talking, and we ended up talking about Fate and some of the stuff that happened and like new stuff. Because I try to keep up with the lore,
Uh-huh.
right, of Fate Grand Order, even if I don't play it. But like, it's different to like just read about the lore than to read the story yourself.
Mhm.
Um, so catching up with that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get back on it. I'm gonna do it, and I've been doing it.
So let me interject real quick. Are you still playing Honkai and or Genshin?
Not at the moment because now my gotcha energy is spent towards Grand Order.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I've been playing it on an emulator on my computer, and
Okay.
that's the best way for me to consume that game.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, I couldn't do it. Because half that game is a visual novel anyway, half a fake Grand Order.
Yeah.
So it's like I just I need it on a I just sit there, and I'll clicky click, and I good. So but I've also been getting into other parts of Fate that I kind of neglected in my absence of Fate Grand Order. So I recently watched the Fate Extra sequel anime. So God damn it, this is some Beyond Kingdom Hearts convoluted shit.
Mhm.
So Fate Extra is a spinoff of Fate. It's an alternate timeline. It's more sci-fi, right?
Yes.
It's a PSP game. They announced Studio Shaft was going to do an anime, right, of it.
Mhm.
And hot psych, it's not an adaptation. It's actually a sequel to What If You Lost to the Final Boss. And
Uh-huh.
they didn't tell anyone that till after the first episode aired.
So the whole thing was just a what if.
Yeah, so it's an old again because it's a multiverse, so everything's canon. So it is a canonical continuation. And it does do a lot of interesting stuff with the lore, but the way Shaft tried to tell, it did not have enough episodes to tell the story that it was trying to tell. I think after
Uh-huh.
completing it, right? And looking back, I heard that like some of the stuff that because Nasu wrote the story for the anime, but some of the stuff they tried to put in just did not get put into the anime because of time constraints.
Mhm.
So it ended up being more confusing than anything. It's really pretty at times. Shaft does a good job of doing like that super surrealistic style. But it's not my favorite entry. It did a few interesting things though.
Yeah.
And I'm currently actively watching the Case Files of Lord El Malloy, which is a spin-off about one character from Fate Zero,
Okay.
and a very fan favorite popular character, mind you.
Okay.
But they are it's what they were doing in between State Zero, what they were doing between Zero and Stay Night, and what events led to them not being in Stay Night. And it works almost like a Sherlock Holmes kind of style story,
Okay.
where there's different like murder, like mysteries and stuff, and he's solving cases. I did start reading the. So again, they do the weirdest things sometimes with these adaptations. Actually, all the adaptations are weird. So it's a light novel series originally, right? And they did not adapt the first two novels for the anime because they
Mm.
did not think they would adapt well. So instead, they did 6 episodes of different short stories to introduce the characters that were introduced in those first two novels differently. They're all canon stories, and they fit in between the novels, but they're like there to introduce those characters so that you're not confused when they adapt novel 3, which is the other half of the show. Novel 3 and 4.
Okay.
I know. I look, it's weird. So I started reading the
It
novel 1 as well
yeah.
to get that information. I can see why it's a lot of monologuing and internal thought process, so that probably would not make great television.
Mhm.
But it's written in the style of a Sherlock Holmes novel too, though, right? So like the main character is Lord Malloy. His assistant is the one telling the story. So like kind of like Watson to Holmes. So it's very much in that style. Uh, that's kind of what I've been doing for 2 months. Is read. getting into the stuff, right? So with Grand Order, how do I say this without with? All right, so Nero's attempts to explain fate.
Okay. Oh, let's hear this.
Okay, so Grand Order, right? So the fake Grand Order, right? Base premise, right? Because it is not an infinite multiverse. It is a finite multiverse, meaning that there's finite space, right? So it can't keep having infinite timelines.
Okay.
So the universe itself corrects that by deleting timelines where humanity just it doesn't progress, or it ends in a dead end, or it goes too far off the rails. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Makes sense so far?
Makes sense.
The way it determines this is with these things called quantum time locks, which are just like events in history that have to happen. Some variation
Canon
of it has
events.
to happen. Yeah, they're canon events. They are
Okay.
canon events. They're canon events that have to happen, and if it deviates too far or doesn't have that event, you pruned. You're gone.
Okay.
Right? Alright. So the big bad of Fake Grand Order, which I'm going to get into light spoilers for Fake Grand Order for everyone. Big bad, King Solomon, or someone who appears to be King Solomon, from the Bible.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
The guy who wrote
Familiar
the
with
Ars
Bible.
Goetia. He was like the son of David. He's known as the King of Magic in Fate because he was supposedly like the OG
Magic's
mage.
not real in the Bible.
Part of all the occultic stuff that Solomon allegedly got into when he was king.
Yeah.
Anyway, he comes up with, for some reason, a plan to incinerate human history for reasons. And he does this by placing the entire Fate franchise, right? It's about fighting for some variation of a Holy Grail, which is a wish granter, right?
Okay.
So he sends Holy Grails to different points in time, and then basically messes up those canon events by having someone make a wish to break the canon event. And so this specific timeline, right? It doesn't affect all the timelines, obviously, but for this branch, he's destroying this specific branch of human history and incinerating it by breaking the canon events. Main character and the organization he's part of, Chaldea. I never actually pronounced Chaldea, yeah. Are basically tasked with going back in time, fixing those canon events, and putting humanity back on track. Base premise. So, when I got back into Fate Grand Order, I was in the America chapter, right? So that canon event that they were dealing with was the founding of America.
Oh.
Right? Canon event. America has to get founded. Timelines where it doesn't get founded, bye-bye. You're gone.
Because as we all know, America is the most important country in the entire world.
As we know. But
unless you're Blue Exorcist.
So there's other ones, right? Like, that's chapter 5, right? So there's the prologue, and then chapter 1 was the France winning the France winning the 100-Year War. Was a canon event.
Okay.
Or I guess surviving the 100-Year War. Number 2 was Rome existing after the reign of Nero, Emperor Nero. Yes, that is actually where my name comes from, by the way.
Oh.
It comes from Emperor Nero, who I discovered through Fate. And actually, it's a fun fact for people who can see the video or know my VTuber design. My actual physical design comes from the character Gilgamesh from Fate. It's inspired heavily by that.
Ooh.
Through different variations of different Gilgamesh outfits and styles and stuff through the years. So, just a fun fact. I'm very
That
Fate
was
inspired.
A fun
fact. So yeah, second one was that Rome. I think the third one was the success of the Age of Exploration. Right, of discovering like the new world. Which makes sense, right? If that doesn't happen, then what the hell?
Yeah.
4 was the Industrial Revolution happening.
Oof. Gotta have that.
Yeah. Right, so 5 was Finding America, and then I just finished 6, titled Camelot, was actually though about the Crusades happening.
Mm.
It's the wildest chapter so far, with how much it like the things got timey wimey, messy wessy, fucky wucky. And now I'm currently in the middle of Babylon, which is the one that did get an anime adaptation. So when I say that the chapters 1 through 5 were considered okay at best by a lot of people, myself probably included, they're okay. So when they were choosing stuff to adapt, they decided to adapt 6 and 7. 6 got 2 movies. The Camelot chapter, and 7 got Babylon got a show. I think Babylon is still considered to this day one of the best stories in the Fate Grand Order story.
Which one is that one? Fate Unlimited Blade Works or
No,
whatever?
Fate Grand Order, Demonic Front Babylon.
Oh, like that's a. Oh, I didn't know that was the name of the. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool,
So the
cool.
Babylon chapter, so that whole series is 20. I think it's 22 episodes. Adapts the
Oh,
Babylon chapter of Fate Grand Order. And so that one is like set in ancient Uruk. So it's about the Epic of Gilgamesh era.
mm.
Still don't know what the time lock is here because I'm in the middle of the chapter, the canon event that's messing with. I imagine it is Gilgamesh creating the first civilization, right? Because if you don't have that blueprint, then you know. Oh, you know what? They did actually. Merlin the wizard did mention that. I think that was it. That is like Egypt alone as a civilization wasn't enough. You need at least this one as well to be like a first civilization to be a blueprint for the rest of the civilizations. I think
Mm.
so. I've been reading that. It's very good so far. It's getting interesting. There's like this whole thing with these. There's like a 3 goddess alliance with 3 goddesses from different mythologies coming together to try to destroy humanity. Don't know the reasons yet. Still reading the chapter. But I know Quetzalcoatl's there, Ishtar, and Tiamat.
Oh, I like Tiamat. That rings a bell.
That's a one I know.
Yeah. That's a dragon in D&D.
Yes.
Dragon god. It's also one of my favorite items in League of Legends.
So the mythology behind, like the real mythology behind Tiamat is it's in Sumerian myth she was like kind of like she was an earth goddess that ended up being the mother of all the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why in D&D she's like a dragon god.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So yeah, I've been consuming Fate stuff recently. I have which is I'm honestly it's probably a good time for me to do this because just got a network finally it's coming out. So back to that Fate Extra I was talking about before, PSP game. There was a side quill that came out in Japan only. Never came to the States because PSP was dead at the time in America. Right? There's that period PSP died.
Right.
Japan did it because, commuter country. So they
For
got the
sure.
game.
Yeah, that's why they had so many PSP exclusives in Japan.
Yeah.
Like the Sword Art Online games for a while.
Yes. So this is one of those. It was Fate Extra
Uh-huh.
CCC. And was
Yeah.
actually considered better than the original Fate Extra. And it was like massive. It had all these extra things. Again, it's a side quill. It takes place in the middle of the extra. It's like a side story, but it's also like way better than the base
Mm-hmm.
game for all intents and purposes. So that fan translation is finally coming out this year. The fan
Well, that's
translation
good.
team, I think, has been working on it for like 6 years or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And they released a tweet in September saying that they should have it out by Christmas, or before Christmas. So I'm excited for that. Not excited actually. It's one of those weird ones where the Fate Extra gameplay is not great either. It's just rock. It's glorified rock paper scissors shoot.
Yeah.
But the story in it is phenomenal.
Hey man, I played Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi, so I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So some games are just rock paper
Some
scissors.
games are just rock paper scissors with some cool animations.
Yup. So that's what that is, and I'm very excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm getting again reading through all the Fate stuff. Looking like though, I'm maybe picked a good time so I can get through the story because from what I've heard from the Japanese players, because the North American Fate Grand Order is typically 2 years behind the Japanese one because it came out 2 years behind, right?
Yeah.
And they have no reason to, I guess, to accelerate that in any way, shape, or form for some reason.
Yeah, Fate isn't one of those shows stories that I'm hearing about all the time, and I work at an anime merch shop,
It doesn't
so
get a lot of Western merch to begin with for some
yeah,
reason.
yeah, we definitely have some Fate stuff at my store, but it's definitely not as much as we have One Piece, Demon Slayer,
Yeah,
and
I
Dragon
think
Ball and Naruto.
I think there's like I would say there's a threefold reason for that, right? One, Aniplex and Type Moon just don't, for some reason, see a reason to export a lot of their stuff to a Western audience for some
Yeah.
reason, right? Like we still don't have official, like, you know what? I say that they're finally coming around, right? Because they just released this last year, I think it was the year before, Mahotsukai, Witch of the Holy Night, which is another visual novel in that universe
Uh-huh.
in English, and they are releasing the Tsukihime remake in English as well next year.
Hmm.
So they are finally releasing. They also, I think I mentioned it on the podcast prior, Fate Samurai Remnant, the Musou game.
I think I heard about that. That does sound familiar
I might
to
have
me.
mentioned, I probably mentioned it, but it's another Fate
Maybe.
game. It came out this year in September, and it came out America and Japan at the same time. So they're doing it slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't release a lot of the extra stuff like light novels or manga, and then the fact that it is a giant multiverse does not help people getting in. It's
Oh
not one
yeah.
easy linear story to get into.
It's not.
It's a
It's
lot
not
of
easy.
it's a lot of side story stuff going on. Lots
Mm-hmm.
of branches, lots of time wimey stuff, right? Like it's one of those franchises where you can be like, hey, here's Fate Zero, which is a dark urban fantasy story, right? And then you can be
Mm-hmm.
like, here's Fate Calliard Linear Prisma, a magical girl show. Yes, they're both canon.
It's now like its own like just cult franchise at this
Yes,
point.
basically.
Um,
Um, it's definitely way more popular than when I was growing up with it, because man, that was like those are the dark days, you know. It was
mm-hmm.
also easier to understand because there was less work. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you just read Fate, you watch Fate Zero, watch Fate Stay Night, maybe go watch the Karuna Kyokai movies. It's another thing that's in that universe, and
Well,
read Tsukihime because the Tsukihime doesn't exist.
and it's similar to Kingdom Hearts too, in that like Kingdom Hearts was very easy in the beginning, and it just kept adding to it.
Yes,
You know,
it's
now
very
having that and now I'm at the point where a lot of people trying to get into Kingdom Hearts is now. It's like they're it's like there's so much to take in real quick, and people just like if you say you like Kingdom Hearts, people just expect you to know that stuff.
I will say to, I guess, Kingdom Hearts credit or to Fate's detriment, Kingdom Hearts is way easier to get into
Mm-hmm.
because it's straightforward, right? There's a lot of stuff, but besides the phone
Just
games, it is a
you
straight
just
line.
gotta play it is the
Yeah,
thing.
Fate's not that easy
Yeah.
because there's no linear time, right? Like the main line, I guess, is Fate Zero to Fate Stay Night, but after that, it's kind of like the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're like me and you're into the greater Nasuverse, that greater universe, right? Then you get into Tsukihime, which is about vampire stuff. Kara no Kyokai, which is like this whole soul stuff going on. Has nothing to do with like it's all in the same universe, but it's like a very vast, wide net of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And like the lore gets ridiculously crazy. Like I was trying to explain to my friend this not see if this goes better with you. The concept of a lost belt,
Mm-hmm.
which is the next arc on Fake Grand Order I'm going to be getting to. That's the second arc in Fake Grand Order. So not about the incineration pan anymore. It's about these things called lost belts, which are those. Remember those? Talked about those canon events before, right? The lost belts are those timelines that got put in the trash bin.
Oh.
And so someone, the big bad of Arc 2, took 7 of those trash bin lines and put them on the Earth currently. You just go into them like big trees. I think you go into them and you go into that world. They're all existing coexistently, and they're just these dead end timelines that, because they were placed onto the Earth in present day. Again, this is my understanding of it. If Fate, people who actually read the chapters, and feel free to correct me. Probably could be getting this wrong, just from summaries. uh, it like accelerates the timeline to where it would be in present day, even if it was cut millions of years ago.
It
So
sounds like to me, it sounds like Dragon Ball tried to do something like this with Xenoverse.
did they?
I feel like I feel like it. Like the idea of like someone trying to mess with the timelines and stuff, and then like I don't know, the whole idea. I don't know, the time I hate that everything's becoming timelines now. And messing with timelines, like between Marvel, Dragon Ball, and then Fate, like I'm just
Apparently invincible, I think too. From what I'm
I feel
hearing.
like I feel like it's only a matter of time till Kingdom Hearts tries it, and they already like kind of touched on it.
I mean, we're going to unreality in Kingdom Hearts next, so they're doing something. Timelines are the new thing. They're the new hotness.
Which part of me also feels like it also makes me feel like Starfield might get into it because I feel like when it comes to anytime multiverse gets involved, there's also timelines involved,
Yes.
and then it just becomes a whole thing. And
This though, it always reminds me of how people lost their shit over the Zelda timeline. And me, an average Fate and Shin Megami Tensei enjoyer, just looks at it and like, that's easy to understand. What are you guys whining about? I
yeah,
just I distinctly remember this, right? Zelda Timeline came out, people lost their absolute shit over it, right? This is an event that happened, correct? I'm not making this up. People were pissed.
right.
And when I
People,
look at it,
I mean, people were mad. I honestly stay outside the Zelda community. Zelda wasn't one of those games I played a whole lot, to be honest.
gotcha.
But Link being one of my mains in Smash, I would like pay some sort of attention. But as far as like backlash and stuff, I just assume everyone loves Zelda.
Yeah, I mean that's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
But I do remember, right? Like the Zelda Timeline came out and it had 3 branches from Ocarina,
Uh huh.
and people were like, "Oh my god, why is it so confusing?" And I'm just like, "Is it? Am I just have I just been like fed too many complicated timelines where now this just looks easy to me? Have I
Maybe
rotted my brain to that point? Because
some
like
people just don't like to think too much.
I guess I just I have a oh god what was I gonna say I guess I like timey wimey nonsense.
Hmm.
I've always kind
That's
of
fair.
I've always liked like one thing I guess I've always liked timelines. Like I remember, which is now a futile effort, but I did once try to make a Fate universe timeline, like
Uh huh.
draw it out. It was manageable, but that was back when I was in college. So what, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago? That was before Fate Grand Order. Uh, it's got a
Do
lot
you
more
think you could do
complicated.
it now?
Uh, Potentially. It depends, I guess, on what I would consider, right? Like, would I put each individual branch kind of thing, or would I just put like, okay, this game's here, even if it has multiple timelines in it, kind of thing, right? Like Fate
Do
Stay Night.
you
Div- hmm?
do you enjoy like writing your own um I want to call it fan fiction, but it's honestly like I guess it is fan fiction in a way. It's just fan fiction just has such a bad rep with the horny community of it. But do you like writing your own fan fiction based on just like the IPs that you really love and
Yeah.
stuff?
So I did back in high school. I did write a little bit of fan fiction. Um, Code stuff mainly. My
Mhm.
big thing then. I think of a lot of possibilities, right? I don't actually like. I'll write down like notes and stuff, but I'll never actually put it to pen. But I will constantly think of different ideas for different IPs I'm into. Where
Yeah.
like I'll think of like hypotheticals, right? Like one of my big things, which is actually what I loved about Fate franchise initially, right? Was right. It's this right. Seven mages, seven servants, sorry, 7 heroic spirits, right, to fight in the Holy Grail. So I was like, what if X character from X franchise was summoned in the Holy Grail? What class would they? Because they have a class system. It's also what I like about Fate is they have this class system, right, where each hero
Yeah.
is put into based on what their feats and stuff, right? Like Saber is the hero of the sword, Lancer the hero of the spear, Archer the projectile hero, Berserker the mad warrior, Caster the mage, Assassin the killer, and Rider the cavalier hero, right? The mounted hero. And so I'm like, okay, what class would they be from this universe? Like from this IP?
Yeah.
Well, like, what if someone from that IP summoned a servant? Because the way of summoning servants is either use a relic or you get who's most like you, right? Or would be compatible. So my thought process was like, well, if X from X universe summoned, what servant from Fate franchise would be most compatible with them? Like fun hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So think about that a lot.
I I spent a lot of time like just growing up in general, writing my own. I say my own, but like I basically like to rewrite um the stories of mostly it's Fallout and Fable.
You did mention the Fallout
Um
before to me.
yeah, where basically I try to think about what didn't work and what did work
Yeah,
and try to if it didn't work, I try to rewrite it to where it does work better. And then if it did work, I still try to think about like what are some ways that it can be improved.
yeah, like
And
fix
then if
fix.
there and then for things like Fallout and Fable, they have like there's multiple stories that happen.
Yeah.
So I try to also think of ways to connect them.
Hmm.
Um, and to so for instance for Fallout, one thing that I did was I created the thing is it's an open world game.
Yeah.
You can do a multitude of things. There's all kinds of side quests and there's different ways you could do each main story. And there's different ways you could play the game. What with like you could be a gunner guy, you could be like
Hmm.
you could use a sword, you can use your fists,
Yep.
and
Yep.
ultimately you're better than most people in that
Yeah.
world. Um so basically I read it to where um what if they were what if they were experimented on pretty much. With
Ah.
like augmentations or like implants is the words that I use because of specifically in Fallout New Vegas, there's some things you can get called implants that can improve your special stats
Hmm.
in the game. And I have multiple people who go through like different levels of morals and ethics and stuff, but also they approach things in certain ways. I have a character who just who is very charismatic and a very nice person and always tries to do the right thing. That's who I make my canonic lone wanderer character,
Gotcha. Yeah.
the main Fallout 3 character. And then I have other characters, one who's a sniper, one who uses swords, one who's extremely lucky, and one who just goes head on with his fists and has high endurance and
Hmm.
stuff. And then eventually they meet another character who's just really intelligent. Um and they throughout the story they work together or they split up to work on different side quests or work on the main quest and stuff like that. Into which then eventually I love the parts that are in between the games,
Yeah.
and I use that to try to write a way for to bring their main characters over to the next thing
Okay.
from like from Fallout 3 to New Vegas, which isn't canonically the next thing, but I think New Vegas is like that'd be a waste to skip.
Yeah.
And plus it's a good way to bridge some details between 3 and 4 as well. It's like, oh, well, some of our characters go to New Vegas, they meet the courier and help him with his stuff while also trying to carry on some other things that are going on over there.
What's
Um,
happening to my PNG? Sorry.
so you mocking me again?
It just starts moving. I'm like, I'm not making noise.
Sometimes it just picks up the lightest noise and then it's just like, oh,
So yeah.
um,
But actually,
but
that
yeah.
that sounds a lot like a fanfic I read a while back for Dragon Age.
Mhm.
What was it? I think it was called All Roads Lead to Denerim, where they, how
Huh.
Dragon Age has different origins, right? Stories.
Yeah.
So this person does like, okay, what if all the origins were together in a group? And then they wrote like other stories to try to connect it to the next game in between, and how those characters from the origin would end up in the second game, even though like they're not in that game, and vice versa, like all the way through. So
Yeah. Well, then there's just some things in the games too, like in Fallout 3, there's the Talon Company who
yes,
ultimately don't do shit.
yeah,
They just hunt you down every so often. And so I basically would try to think about what are some ways that I can connect them. Like and I love watching like lore videos from like Oxhorn and Rad King and whatnot. And they'll dive deep and do all the, like the research for you so you don't have to go diving into the game
yeah,
where they'll read the terminals, they'll read all the notes and stuff to try to like find this information for you. And there really just isn't much um like or even like your dad and your mom in
hmm,
Fallout 3. There really isn't anything about them. So I like to write my own things for them. Like for the mom, for instance, like I just made her like a follower of the apocalypse from New Vegas,
Oh.
which would give her the interest to start Project Purity in the first place. And I make James into someone who was actually um incredibly smart, worked with people who work with the Commonwealth, and
Yeah.
eventually started working with the Brotherhood, to which then was tasked to help with Project Purity. But then, due to him falling in love with Catherine, he became passionate about the project as well. And
Hmm.
I don't know, I just try to think of stuff like that. Fable is just one where I'm like, it's messy,
Yeah.
and I would like to make it less messy.
Have you thought of like publishing those on like a fan fiction website?
My issue is I suck at writing.
You know what?
I
So do like 90% of fan fiction authors. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
it's like I can't think of ways to make it sound appealing. I'm just good at creating broad ideas,
Hmm.
and it's something that my brother and I talked about of actually like and I think I work best in with writing as a script versus writing as a story. And
Yeah,
I would like the animation to take over, or I would like the acting to take over, something like that,
that
rather
makes
than like
sense.
me having to describe how someone is walking up a hill.
No, yeah, I feel you. I enjoy writing script format more. I have learned again through I'm an English major, right? So I've learned how to write the other like in descriptive ways. I
Mhm.
vastly prefer script writing because in
Yeah.
my head when I'm picturing stuff, it's always either through as a animation or some other medium or like acting or like a movie or something. It's never as I never imagine it as a written book, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I definitely feel you
Exactly.
there.
Like, and I just I'm bad with details in general too. My As far as art between my older brother and I is that he is a lot more detail oriented than I am,
Hmm.
but I come up with really good broad concepts and stories.
Yeah,
There's key events that happen in my head. I just have a hard time connecting them, and I would like to have like some sort of like co-writer to help me to connect those dots in really
gotcha.
good ways, which is what my brother would be good at. So he and I actually talked about creating like a manga or something for the Fallout story.
Ooh.
The issue is also Fallout is just such a it's a weird IP because like I feel like I wouldn't be able to like have the rights to write this stuff. But then I think about like Fallout Equestria and I'm like, I wonder how that came about. I wonder how that was able to be published and stuff.
I mean, I guess from my understanding, as Bethesda as a company, they're very open to fan works.
Hmm.
So I feel like you could totally release it. It just obviously you couldn't monetize it, right?
It's like it's so weird with how they operate because there's also someone who's working on creating Fallout 3 and Fallout 4,
Hmm.
uh, basically recreating the whole freaking game in
Yeah,
Fallout 4. And obviously, Bethesda doesn't like that because it's like then people won't be able to get Fallout 3. People won't want to get Fallout 3. They'll just play it in 4, and for free for that matter.
yeah.
And so they basically made them like halt production at one point, and basically got they don't own the rights to use their voice lines and stuff. So they started to they had an open casting call for people to basically record lines for them,
Hmm.
but like I still don't know if it's actually going to be a thing yet. So far it sounds like it because they completely recreated Point Lookout, the DLC
Oh
in
wow.
Fallout 4. Let me see Fallout 3 in Fallout 4. I'm curious. I just said 45. uh,
45.
yeah, Fallout 4 Capital Wasteland. So far it's still look. Yeah, you could play Point Lookout right now.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
weird one because, right, I get why Bethesda would not want that to exist, but I know they
mhm,
allow other huge overhaul mods or other huge, like, pocket
yeah.
games in
Now
their
it's not like I'm
stuff.
making a game or anything though. It's like it's just a story.
Yeah.
So
I mean, right,
I don't know.
I feel like most companies are chill with fanfic or fan works,
Hmm.
right? As long as you're not, like, monetizing them or monetizing it outside of, like, convention space, right?
Yeah.
Right, like,
Well,
I know,
at this point in my life though, it's like if I'm gonna put that much work and time into something, I would like to get money out of it. You know.
yeah, um, right, like, I know I bought, like, fan comics before, and, like, it's weird, America's also weird, right? Like, I know, like, if you look at Japan, they have a huge indie comic scene, right?
Hmm.
Where they'll have, like, I mean, like, not indie, but like, not strictly indie, but, like, indie fan work scene, right? Dojinshi. which most people sort of associate with, porn and shit, which is a lot of it, but there's also lots that isn't, right? They're just fan works.
Yeah.
Um, so lots of people like I remember, what was it? Faye had one I think I read before. It was like just like again, it was just pure fan comic.
Oh my god, and the amount of like Neon Genesis ones.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
I have I think I have 9 volumes of the Shinji Ikari Raising Project, and then there was another one called Apocalypse.
So
I loved that one.
those ones are officially licensed.
Those are? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like Shinji Ikari, I also have. How many volumes of Shinji Ikari Raising Project do I have? Do I have all of them? I'm missing one. I think I'm missing the last one. But I do have Shinji Ikari Raising Project and Apocalypse.
Apocalypse I loved. I loved that one. I
Apocalypse
loved
is
the
so
concept
cool.
of it. Yeah.
Um,
I never got the last one, the 4th one. I never got that one.
I also why are you the same person? I also don't have the 4th one. I never found it back when, and I haven't had the I guess like no now I might go get it because I'm thinking about it and it was really good. Anyway,
I'm actually looking it up right now. Campus Apocalypse is what.
yes, Campus Apocalypse.
Campus Apocalypse.
There's 4 volumes.
Volume 4. I'm gonna see if I could just buy it on. Oh, it's on Amazon. Sick.
How much is it on Amazon?
45.
See, this is why because it went out of print. And now it's
Yeah.
like seemingly
There's 2 used ones on Amazon.
I always take a I know I always on my list of things I always check for when I'm at conventions. Because I'm like, oh, maybe it's there. Like last time, I was able to find to complete my collection of Gundam Seed manga and Negima Neo manga, which are both out of print. The one I found actually when I was at Otakon was of Negima Neo had a border sticker on it, so you can date that one right there.
Ooh.
But yeah, I know Japan.
I really want to read. I really want to read the Grimgar light novels.
I never watched the show because I kept hearing great things about it, but then I kept hearing it was not going to get a second season, so I'm like, I'm not gonna.
It's not, but honestly, they didn't leave any, and they didn't leave any room for there to be a season 2. Like
Okay.
it left off in a way that you could tell there's more, but they skipped things that helped with that build up.
Okay.
So there really isn't any room for them to do like a season 2.
Gotcha.
But however, in 13 episodes, they covered 2 books.
That sounds about right.
2 books, and also the beginning of the 3rd one.
Yeah. Typical.
And it's like in 13 episodes, it's like it never felt rushed. It never
Yeah.
Like it's really well paced. The beginning does feel a little slow, but it's it's a whole new world, so we got to figure out how the world works.
Yeah.
And it's comparable to Goblin Slayer, which people love or hate. Personally, from what I've seen with Goblin Slayer, I actually like Grimgar a lot more, but it obviously never continued. But I highly recommend watching it. It's a fast binge. It's on Hulu.
Like what, 13 episodes,
The
right?
dub is great. One of the first works of Justin Reiner, actually, before Deku.
Ooh.
Actually, the guy who plays Mirio in My Hero,
yeah,
plays the main character.
Okay.
And then Justin Briner plays like their leader character. So it's like it's like the whole like tall versus short dynamic pretty much swaps in My Hero, which is very interesting. But overall, the cast are a bunch of people that I've never heard of, I think it's really good personally. And the anyone that I've heard of before besides Justin Briner, we're all like supporting characters.
Looking at the cast right now. I don't recognize any of them besides Justin Briner. Really?
Yeah, like if you look at the like I like looking at BTBA for stuff like this. But like for the support for like recurring roles and stuff, like they got Todd Habercorn, they got like Mike McFarlane, Austin Tyndall.
Okay.
Like they got some recognizable people voicing supporting characters, but as for the main cast, it's all like people I've never heard of, and they did really good. I think Sarah Widdenheft, I think she's been in more stuff recently.
Yes. I know her specifically as the voice of Charmy from Black Clover.
Yeah, Charming and Black Clover. She's also an Octopath Traveler as Casty
And
Florence.
2. Yes, I haven't played 2 yet.
Oh, and
Um,
she's Power in Chainsaw Man.
which I did not watch dub, so that would explain why I don't
Yeah.
recognize. A lot of these people have voiced stuff like where I've seen the sub and not the dub.
Hmm.
Um, just because I watch stuff weekly, so it's easier usually for me to watch the sub. If I go back, like my typical like watching experience is, if I'm watching it weekly, I watch sub. If I go back and watch it later day, I watch dubbed. Or
Yeah.
like if I'm binging it, right? Like Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm watching dubbed.
Yeah.
I watched that after it came out, and then I'm like, all right, well, I'll just wait. Oh, okay. Oh, she played Jessica Cruz in the Ruby X. Sorry, I'm looking at one of the voice actresses for Grimgar, who played Yume. She played Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern, in Ruby X Justice League,
Yeah. I will say they do.
and Little
They
Pan.
Yeah, she did. She voiced Little Pan. I saw that one. They do the whole thing where like the camera's like conveniently zoomed in on like girls' butts and tits and
The
stuff, but
the average fan service
it's the
thing.
usual anime stuff. It's just like, you know, it's fascinating because it's a different kind of experience watching an isekai like this,
Mm-hmm.
where
And
you normally look at the main characters who work on trying to get them out of there, trying to work on going back to the normal life, or at least like adapting to the world very well and becoming somebody.
yeah,
These guys are all like fifth string people. Like they're the fifth string warrior, rogue,
yeah,
dark knight, stuff like that. They're bad at what they do. The very beginning of the show, they're all teaming up on one goblin.
yeah. I definitely see why it's comparable to, people probably would like put it in the same camp as Goblin Slayer, right? Even though Goblin Slayer not an isekai, but it's about, right, like the big thing about like Goblin Slayer. It's not about the guys who are actively saving the world. You hear about those people in the background of Goblin Slayer. It's just about
Mhm.
some schmucks killing goblins.
Yeah, like realistically speaking, Renji, the first recurring role that's there in that list,
Yeah,
he's he honestly would be the main character if this were to be like a shonen show.
yeah.
The dude shows like the most balls out of everyone in the first episode.
I mean, he's got shonen protagonist hair.
Yeah. The character Brittany tries like threatening him by pointing a knife and like who do you think you are? And he just grabs the knife and it starts cutting his hand. He's like, I think I'm the guy who could take you down and stuff. So he's like the badass character that I hear in the light novels they eventually work with like he works with some of the main characters and stuff because they develop obviously into better characters.
Yeah,
Um overall, like I think it's amazing. It's definitely my one of my top 3 favorites, and it's probably my favorite underappreciated shows.
yeah. I've always heard good things about it. Whenever I hear, right, it's never in the top. As far as discussion for Isekai, it's never in the top like the gold star ones, but it's always mentioned
Mhm.
like right under it, right? Because when you think of like the top gold star isekai are like Overlord, ReZero, and Konosuba typically,
Yeah.
and then this is like what I hear is like right. This is like right under it. So I always hear good things about it. I just, because there's no continued like second season, I've never felt the not the need, but the push to go watch it. But if you're saying it feels complete by the end, I'll give it a watch.
The, um the only complaint I can really think of is while the soundtrack is amazing, it's they do poor usage
Okay, so it's not well
of this
implemented.
of the soundtrack. Like it's like they'll use what I just think like there's another song in your soundtrack that you could have used at this part, and for some reason you decided this one.
Gotcha. The actual score is good, but the
A
the
great score,
choice.
and it's a very beautiful looking show. I believe it's done by like A1 Picture. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
done
it's
by A1
A1.
Pictures. So the characters have the usual A1 Pictures look, but the backgrounds are all watercolor paintings.
I I have seen like how it looks, and I always thought it looked really pretty.
Hmm.
Who's the
I'm surprised with this
composer?
votage thing that they have on the side here. Who's your favorite character? And they're the most voted is Ronta, and honestly, he was my least favorite. But
Going against the grain.
yeah, well, there's once you watch the show, I think you can see why I don't like him. But
Uh, music was done by Ron. Why does that look
It's the same
familiar?
people who did Spy Family.
I see.
The
Yes.
the Spy Family soundtrack, not the openings.
Yes. I'm seeing it on here.
hmm But the people who made the opening to the show are also the people who made the soundtrack for
Yes.
Grimgar. So I think that's very cool and interesting.
Also did the arrangement for for Drifters, another show I think is super underappreciated.
hmm
There's a lot of really I could go on like how like Grimgar is definitely probably I definitely think one here is often underappreciated. There's so many shows that I've seen are underappreciated. Need more love. We could bring those up more.
I'm surprised you haven't. I'm actually surprised you've been hearing about Grimgar because honestly, every time I mention it to someone, they've never heard of it.
I mean, look. I've seen. So we're gonna talk about Nero's horrendous numbers here. I've seen almost 1,000 anime. So
Yeah, I've probably seen maybe 30,
I've like I went
but
my black hole phase where I consumed anime lasted much longer than most people. And again, I just try to keep up with weekly stuff. Don't ask me how I have time for this. I don't know. But
I I'm okay. So you're very similar to my brother in that aspect. I don't know how he's able to keep up with every single current anime right now. Um, he is keeping up with JJK, Demon Slayer. He does not follow Chainsaw Man. He actually doesn't like it. But
interesting.
he he and he's also following along with Fate and Kingdom Hearts, and he also is staying current with Destiny. Uh, any Dark Souls s game, like any From Software game. So even Armored Core and stuff,
Yeah.
he's keeping up with all that stuff while also playing D&D. And I go, and he's in school right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? Well, also not to mention spending time with his fiance.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, how in the world do you find time to do all this? And he just tells me bath times are a magical time. And I'm like, oh,
I mean, that sounds like what I did when I was in college. I absorbed way somehow, even though I had less actual free time. I think I had more. I consume more content. I don't know how time works. Okay,
yeah.
but yeah, when I was in school, I would watch anime in between classes.
hmm
I commuted too, right? So I would also watch stuff on the train, or I would read like whatever manga or light novel or visual novel I was reading at the time on the train. Actually, I read the entirety of Umineko, the visual novel, pretty much on my commute to college for a year.
I almost voiced in an Umi Neko project. I think
I
it
th-
ended up getting canned though. I think it was an abridged series.
that's unfortunate. I would That would have been fun. Do you know what character it was, or you would have
I think it was the main guy in it.
battler?
Maybe.
I could see you as a
I,
battler.
yeah.
I feel like you have that tone. You have that
Yeah,
voice.
I mean, the thing is, like being in the amateur voice acting community, it's great. You can get a lot of roles, but the amount of projects that get canned is just
Oh yeah,
is astounding. Like, there's a lot that just gets canned, like just forgotten, or just you or just one episode long.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
People just get a lot of drive and hype to start working on it, and then they're already burnt out on episode two.
That's the hard part with fan projects, right? Fan community stuff, right? You can't. It's hard to make money from, right? So the monetary drive to keep doing something isn't there.
hmm
So it has to purely come from your passion for that thing, while also like it being right, it always usually being a side thing in regards to what
Yeah.
you're actually doing, right?
Well, and back when I was doing voice acting stuff online, it was during a time when the idea of making money was like a dream of like it's like when I make it, I'll have made it when I start making money doing voice acting, which is typically like when you work with like Funimation or something like that.
Yeah.
People didn't. It wasn't really a thought to like make money on your fan projects and stuff like, and I did. I did voice acting for a British series, fan dubs, and then I also did Utaite singing work. The amount of work that people did for Utaite chorus projects and stuff for Vocaloid songs is wild. Like, and the idea of people making art, people mixing. songs and people recording vocals all for free
Yeah.
was the norm back then. And so and I find it wild, but also like I find it very progressive now in that like people are now like it's now expected that if you want art, you got to commission it. If you want someone to mix your song, you got to commission it. Like and I'm very happy that we're now at that part. But now it's like I can't make as many projects because I don't have the money to commission people. So
Yeah.
but one last note. I got excited because I just got an email that on do you did you watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged or
A little bit, not like a lot of it. I watched a bits here and there.
oh man, definitely like I'd say definitely watch it if you can. It's my favorite way of taking in the mostly the Cell saga, but like the Frieza saga was also really good. The Saiyan saga is like a little less than desirable. It was good for its time, but then like their quality just like skyrocketed. And lately they've been doing commentary
Hmm.
on their episodes, and they're
Okay.
now on like the last episode, which was a three-parter. So now they just released their creator commentary for part two. So on their
Ooh.
Patreon. So I'll be watching that once we're done here. So
Ah, gotcha.
but yeah, I love it. It is they handle their characters a lot better than I think Dragon Ball Z did, and they definitely like hold on to the things that worked. Um, they made a lot of the characters more relatable and personable, and by the end of the show, they just had like a rhythm of how the characters worked, and it's they don't work the same way that they did in the original show, but
Hmm.
they if you've been following the abridged show, they it feels natural for them to go to where the decisions they end up doing. They
Yeah.
made the whole Cell debacle of Vegeta letting him transform, Krillin destroying the remote. They made all that work better than it did in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
highly recommend watching that too. And it's a fast binge, honestly.
I imagine. Yeah. It's abridged.
Mhm. Yeah, it's technically 69 episodes
Yeah, that's not
from
much.
episode 1 all the way to the very end. And they also released Boo Bits recently. They just did like little bits of the Boo saga.
Ooh,
Mhm. That's
that's cool.
fun. Filled with their own references, and also like, making fun of, but also like adding on to a lot of the stuff in the Boo saga, cuz the Boo saga is silly overall.
Yeah, it's definitely on the sillier tone.
Definitely one of the worst of the arcs as far as probably the worst arc of Dragon Ball Z, but it definitely
Mm,
wasn't entirely bad though. I like the Boo saga.
I don't. Now I'm like thinking back what my least favorite arc of Dragon Ball Z was.
I mean, you only got
Uh,
4 to choose from, really.
I
Unless
guess
you wanna separate the android and the Cell
I always
saga.
separated them in my head.
Yeah.
I guess was it? But
I also feel like there was the Namek saga and the Frieza saga. I feel like those are 2 different things as well.
uh, mm, it feel. I guess it depends on what way you consume Dragon Ball, where it feels different or
Mhm.
not. Right? In Z, I think it felt like two distinct things. But like if you go back to Kai, it feels more succinct.
Another, set of videos I recommend that you could listen to and watch if you want, there's a guy called Totally Not Mark.
Hmm.
I don't I don't know if you've, watched any of his
I
content, but
have
he
not.
did an entire retrospective on everything Dragon Ball, for first of all. He's
Hmm.
also done FMA, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, and now he's starting on Yu Yu Hakusho.
Ooh.
Um, but he has done, and he most recently did Dragon Ball Z because it was something that he wanted to give it the time it deserved. And he did like a full retrospective where he talks about everything that happens, and then also talks about his takes on like what was good, what was bad, what was some poor decisions, good decisions. And overall, he also enters like a segment where he talks about like the artists that worked on it, the animators that worked on it and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And also talked about things that were happening around the same time they were releasing them. So like for instance, when Dragon Ball Z started, when Goku died, it was also around the time where some notable Japanese figures died. So it was a very depressing time for
Oh
Japan
shit.
when Goku died.
That's it's a bad coincidence.
Hmm. Like 3, like including Goku, 3 notable figures all died around the same time.
That is very unfortunate timing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? That's also like, what was it? What else happened that was like unfortunate timing with the episodes? There was a show. It was an anime I watched. I can't remember. It'll come back to me like in the middle of the night. But I remember
Hmm.
there was an anime that aired, and the next episode was supposed to be a whole, like, I think it was like dealt with a natural disaster, and then an actual natural disaster occurred in Japan, and they had to like indefinitely delay the episode because it would have just
There
been.
was also Lilo and Stitch.
What happened with Lilo and Stitch?
They completely changed the whole ending scene with Stitch piloting the ship with next to piloting against Gantu. And they flew into the city of Oahu where there were tall buildings.
Oh no!
They did not fly into any buildings, but they were worried about people's reactions to the recent events of 9/11 at that point.
Yeah,
So they had to completely change that scene to be like open air. They changed it to like in the mountains
yeah.
of like Hawaii and stuff.
I did
So
not know that.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like, what's it called? Same thing happened with or not same thing. Similar thing happened with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The whole pandemic plotline got cut. Just why we have
Yeah.
the awkwardness of the flag smashers feeling out of place.
I will say also like I was thinking about it recently, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Hmm.
And I think my favorite episode was episode 5.
Was
Which
that
was
the?
that's the one that starts with Bucky and Falcon fighting John Walker.
Okay.
And then after that is just leisure. Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
because the mission's done, and then that's them working on the boat.
That was a
I
great episode,
really just
actually.
like that episode a lot, and I think I've rewatched that one, like, 5 times when
You
it came
just
out.
get room to breathe with them, you know.
Yeah, and I like just low-key shows like that, where there's no major plot, and it's just them living amongst people with their powers and doing really funny interactions with them. Like the idea of these guys going, "Well, how are we gonna get this freaking pallet off a truck?" And then Bucky just shows up, picks it up, and drops it, going like, "Hey."
Yeah, I did like. I like when you get time to breathe with the characters. I feel like that's not always the most popular thing with people, but
Yeah, it does feel like filler for a lot of people, but I would like just a show like that with
yeah,
like I know people said like they would love a show where it's just the Avengers hanging out like and relating it to the episode where they're all trying to pick up Thor's hammer.
yeah. I This is also why I think like I enjoyed. I'm gonna see this loosely. I enjoyed She-Hulk more than the average viewer.
Mhm.
Still don't think too highly of it overall, but I think it's because you just get to see how that world exists at times, and like just the kind of like the back behind the scenes and like what's going on, with the average layman.
My issue with She-Hulk isn't the whole idea of it being like a comedy show. My problem with it is just She-Hulk herself. I wasn't a fan of She-Hulk.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's just me though. Um
Everyone's got. I mean, everyone's has wildly different opinions. I don't want to say wildly about She-Hulk, but I know I have wildly different opinions of
yeah.
She-Hulk.
I know a lot of people there was a lot of very vocal people who didn't like it. I don't
Yes,
really know if it was a lot. And so and for some people they kind of gave up on Marvel, So it's like their only experience with Marvel now is just what people talking shit about it.
I
So
actually just to bring this up before we close. Have you seen? I don't know how much you follow Matt Pat stuff or any film theory, but he recently released a kind of like a film theory about what the MCU should do to fix things going forward, kind of thing. I don't know if you saw that video.
mm, no, I haven't. I'll have to check that
I might
out
send that
though.
your way later. But I know like he essentially proposes a kind of like a almost like a
A
split.
reboot.
No, he says the reboot's the worst thing they could possibly do.
Okay.
He gives into reasons why, but he proposes like a split where it said like because you know how Feige's like the central figure of head of everything, kind of like creating department heads for each type of Marvel project.
Mhm.
So like cosmic stuff has a head, street level stuff has a head, Avenger stuff has a head, and Mystic stuff has a head, right? And then those are all kind of like self-contained little pockets.
Hmm.
that they'll eventually kind of like sometimes cross over, but they mostly deal with themselves, which kind of like what
I
the
think it's a
comics do. I think they're
yeah.
just dealing with
That
too
is a good
much,
idea for sure.
and I feel like that honestly would fix a lot because right now it just feels like nobody's talking to each other. Where like I
It just
know,
it doesn't feel like there's any direction.
yes, which
They're just making content. And I think that's overall just my issue with Marvel is just that they like there was a goal once Avengers was made, I
yes,
feel.
there was a goal. Feige has clearly has a goal with the multiverse saga and King, but a lot of the other there's a lot of shows that just feel like they're not part of that goal, right? Like
I'm
She-Hulk, Moon Knight, they don't feel like a part of that story, you know?
I'm also just worried about just Disney's influence in general cuz I know Feige can do great stuff. I also know um Dave Filoni can do really cool stuff. And they're the ones getting the backlash the most when it comes
Yeah,
to like these failing projects of Marvel and Star Wars. But it's like I feel like they're not to blame. I feel like it's just other people interfering.
it's a lot of I think. Well, right, I think big thing right. COVID had to do a lot with it. That
Mhm.
messed so much up. But it is, I think, a matter of. I do think it's a lack of communication, right? I think it's the biggest thing. Like these projects feel disjointed. Like I don't think most of these projects on their own, if they were in a pocket, divorced from the MCU would be bad.
Yeah.
But in the grander context of the MCU, right, and what we as fans have been trained to expect, they fall short
Yeah. Well, and yeah, it's like
because
and
of
we've all
the
been trained to basically understand that everything in Marvel's connected. Everything can influence something in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's why I was a little bit like because I'm not really into horror films or anything, but I was very skeptical into watching the Doctor Strange movie because I heard it was going to be a horror film. There wasn't really a whole lot to worry about if
yeah.
people are scared of horror films, but it's it was just something that I was wary of because 'cause I'm a total fucking bitch, and so I was like, do I just have to nut up and watch a horror film just so I can understand what's going on with the MCU?"
Yeah, that was. I think that movie itself. I have a whole conspiracy theory on that movie, where that movie because it switched directors a few times. It
Yeah.
was one point like I mean, it definitely was at one point a completely different movie.
I think at one point it was supposed to have Loki in it.
Loki was rumored at one point in one drop. The original villain of that movie was Fear,
Mm.
which I think would have made a whole lot more sense. Because you get
Yeah, it didn't look to me like it was supposed to be a movie where Wanda was the villain.
no,
It's look to me, it looked like it was gonna be a movie where Wanda starts off as an adversary, but in the end they put aside their differences or they she eventually works with Doctor Strange.
sorry, not Fear. Nightmare, one of the Fear Lords. Sorry, was who was supposed to be the original villain of that movie.
That's so weird because that's exactly who I thought you were talking about, and I just went along.
Yes, he one of the Fear Lords though. Which right, Shang Chi also had one of the Fear Lords in it, Dweller in Darkness. So
Uh-huh.
I was like, the whole time watching what's I'm like, okay, are they going to drop the other shoe where it's actually Wanda's just being manipulated by Nightmare, which would totally I think have made it better, right? Like preying on her fears and her fear of one in like the loss of her children. I don't know. I feel like there's just different things. Like you can tell there was different drafts. I mean, that movie I get a whole conspiracy theory about it where it's just like
Yeah.
there was definitely a different movie there at one point.
Hmm.
I'm starting to get worried about Fantastic Four because it has changed directors a couple times now.
Yeah.
It is no longer. I think currently it is the showrunner of WandaVision who's directing it. Last I heard, so
Okay.
that keeps
Yeah.
getting shuffled.
Yeah.
Blade's gone through so many issues recently. I don't know if you heard
Is
about that.
are they getting Wesley Snipes to get that role, or are they getting someone else?
No, it was Mahershala Ali.
Okay.
He's like I think he's producing it. That's part of like the big thing. Like took off the ground.
Okay.
Uh, my idea for a Blade movie actually would have involved Wesley Snipes. Um, So my idea for a Blade movie would have been based on that a canceled comic run from a few years back, where it was about Blade teaching his daughter how to be a vampire hunter.
Yeah.
It just ended up not picking up. A bunch of runs got canceled from that line that was supposed to come out. But I thought that would have been a cool idea, having Wesley Snipes as an older figure who had just been in. You can make all the Blade movies because it's canon that way, and just something happening in the background because they're not super, like, nothing straight, like, to the point, and then, or implied canon in the MCU, whatever. You know how it is now.
Yeah.
And then have that and him, like, teaching a new generation, like, them being, like, a father-daughter duo.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that would have been a cool idea. That's just me.
Yeah.
I have tons of ideas for, like, I think a lot of the MCU is the correct, not correct. A lot of the ideas in this past two phases are good. They just weren't executed greatly, and I feel like with minor adjustments, they could have been great.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Did you talk about the Marvels, by the way, on this podcast?
I think that might be in the lost episode.
Right. Real quick, what were your thoughts on it?
It was good. It
Good.
wasn't. It was not bad. It was in no way, shape, or form bad. It was no way, shape, or form great. It was just good. I laughed a
I
lot. I had a lot of fun. I thought it was too short.
mm,
It could have used right. I know they were overcompensating with people being like trying to cut things down. I guess I think it could have used more room to breathe.
mm,
It went very fast. It's the shortest Marvel movie, I think. Definitely the brand of comedy for it could definitely rub certain people the wrong way. Right? I know a lot of criticism. There's a whole musical planet.
hmm.
I thought it was hilarious, but I could easily see someone being really annoyed by it. Where like,
I know I've heard a lot of negativity towards that movie, and I know the biggest highlight about it though was that Miss Marvel was
oh
the
yeah,
highlight.
Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani is literally the star of the show.
Hmm.
She's phenomenal. Every line
Yeah.
she delivers, every scene she's in is great. I think they did actually give Captain Marvel a personality, which was my biggest gripe from the first movie.
Yeah.
So they did kind of fix that issue I had with her. Um, the overall plot was whatever. It was just these characters interacting is fun. I am enjoying seeing them on screen. There was like a
Okay.
kind of like sort of message about collateral damage and and Captain Marvel, collateral damage and her not thinking things through, kind of thing. But again, it kind of felt like the sidestep plot to just get these characters involved and having fun. Um, yeah, it was just fun. It was a fun time.
That's good.
Uh, Set up some cool things I think for the future of the MCU. One thing I in particular I care about a lot, which I've just been waiting for endlessly. I guess I'll mention it. It's been out long enough. People don't either seen it or not going to see it. It's not a huge thing. They start setting up the Young Avengers, like
Okay.
actually, not just teasing it
Good.
like they have been. Like there is a direct scene that parodies almost the kind of like parodies the Avengers initiative scene from Iron Man 1. It's really
Oh,
funny.
okay.
It's Kamala giving like a kind of parody version of it. I'm
Okay.
trying to form a
Gotcha.
team with young superheroes. Which it's a really funny scene.
Hmm.
I enjoyed it anyway. Uh,
We should probably wrap up though. This is our
oh yeah,
longest episode.
it's the episode we had nothing turned into our longest one yet.
Yeah.
That's just how Nerd Nonsense rolls. Anyway, we'll see after it cuts if this actually turns out to the longest one. Probably so. Anyway, thank you all for watching or listening to Nerd Nonsense. I have been Nero. This has been Makoto. Makoto, where can people find you?
I was getting ready to cut you off. Going like, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Makoto Dragon _ YouTube Makoto Dragon, Twitch Makoto Dragon.
And you can find me, Nero V. Belial, on the Twitter, the Twitches, maybe the YouTube one day. I promise it's happening. It's Thanksgiving week, all right? I got stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, goodbye.
Goodbye.